If it's Valentine's Day and you're not dressing in pink and red, what are you doing with your life? Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another sewing tutorial that is very festive and fun and very Valentine's Day, if that's even a word and a way to say that. I am so excited about this video and this very fun and easy, very kind of beginner friendly sewing tutorial. We are going to be making an adorable pair of pants in today's video, inspired by Scandi fashion and my current kind of just aesthetic when it comes to fashion, but also very much inspired by Valentine's Day, because if red and pink are not the most amazing kind of color combination, I don't know what else is. Actually I do know there's tons of other colors that are great color combinations, but there's something about red and pink recently that I've really been drawn towards. And after just like perusing my Pinterest boards and inspirations and projects that I've been wanting to make and just kind of the styles I've been seeing people wearing and being inspired by, I had an idea to make this really cute pair of pants for Valentine's Day. I've always been a huge fan of Valentine's Day. I've always loved celebrating it. I love any excuse to kind of dress up extra fun. I mean, I'm a romantic at heart, so celebrating, you know, love and romance is the best. And even all of my years before I was married, and all of my years being single, which was a really long time because it was like 26 years as a single, and never celebrating Valentine's Day with anyone, I still like loved celebrating Valentine's Day for myself, because I think it's just such a fun day to just celebrate you and your accomplishments and just celebrate love. And also if you need a reason to like celebrate getting dressed up really fun, that's it. So anyways, all that aside, today we are going to be making an adorable red and white checkered bow accented pair of pants. So I kept seeing like all these really cute pants on my Pinterest board, and then also a pair of pants by a girl who runs a British kind of slow fashion brand on Instagram. So I'll put those pictures here. She had this really cute pair of like bow Scandi pants that I thought was adorable, but then I also saw this pair of red and white checkered ties on the side pants on Pinterest. So the sides are like open and then there's bows to tie them together, and I thought those were so cute. I obviously don't want like the opening on the side of my pants, but I love the idea of red and white checkered pants with adorable bows on the side. So we are blending and melding those two together and making the most adorable pair of pants that have bow accents on the side, and it's going to be so cute. So a current theme for 2024 when it comes to my sewing tutorials is actually using patterns that you can go and purchase, or using free patterns that you have access to so that you don't actually have to make your pattern for yourself. So this is one of those. For these pants, I'm going to be using a toned down and more simplified version of Sydney Graham's Lane pant. These are literally my favorite pair of pants. So easy, so fun to sew. I have literally at this point already made like 5 pairs of them, so we're going to adapt that pattern and use it for our pants today. So I'll put the link to her pattern in the description of this video. But if you also watched my free sewing pattern video, there were also a couple of free pants patterns in that video that could also easily be used for these pants that I'm making in today's video. So if you're looking for a free pants pattern, I will also put the link to a couple of those in the description of this video, because those pants can easily be adapted for today's project. So without further ado, let's sew up the most adorable and ultimate Valentine's Day pants ever.
For these pants, you are going to need your pattern. Again, I'm using the Lane pattern by Sydney Graham, linked down in the description of this video, along with a free pattern. And then here is my red and white checkered fabric. I will also put the link in the description of this video. You will need about 3 to 3.5 yards, depending on how long you're going to make your pants. So to make this easy on myself, I just laid out my fabric, double folded with my selvaged ends on both sides instead of folding it like skinny. And then I laid out my pants patterns. I also put the bottom edge of my pants on the selvaged edge of my fabric so I don't actually have to hem my pants, so there's a little hint for you. Then we finish laying out all of our pattern pieces and cut them all out. So obviously the showstopper on these pants are all of the bows that are going to be on the sides of the pants. So I kind of played around with how long I needed my bows to be and also how like wide and thick I wanted them to be. And this is essentially the size of the bow that I wanted to go with. After that, it was off to cut all the strips that are going to be turned into my bows. I used basically just a lot of the scraps left over from cutting out my pattern pieces, and I decided to make my bows 1.5 inches wide and 21 inches long, and I cut 8 of these. Originally, I just cut 6 of them. I was going to put 3 bows on the side of each pair of pants, and then I decided 4 bows would be even better. Also, quick tip, the easiest way to cut lots of strips of fabric is to use a rotary cutter and a rotary cutter ruler, as well as a cutting mat. Honestly, life-saving, and it makes cutting these strips so precise and also so quick. And these are all of my strips after I cut them. Again, I originally cut 6, I ended up cutting 8, so I would highly recommend 8. Alright, now it's time to start constructing our pants. You are going to need your bag pocket pieces and then your front pant pieces. You are going to line up the kind of diagonal edge of your pocket with the diagonal edge of the top of your pants. You're going to want to make sure that these are right sides together. Now, before you do that, we actually are going to fold our pockets in half, and we are going to just sew across the bottom. This is essentially going to create the bag pocket shape. After I sewed the bottom of those pockets, I brought them back over to my pants, and this is where we are going to align that diagonal edge of our pocket with the diagonal top edge of our pants. We're going to pin those together, and then we're going to sew those on our sewing machine with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. After we have sewn the diagonal edge of our pockets, we are going to take our pants over to our iron. We are going to open up our pockets, iron where that seam is, and then we are going to flip our pockets to the back of our pants. And this is what our pockets are going to look like after they have been ironed. And as you can see now, the pockets extend that straight edge of our pants, and then also the seam allowance for our pockets is now hidden on the inside after we ironed it. Now we are going to pin the top of our pockets and the sides of our pockets and just do a basting stitch. This is actually going to close in our pockets so that the sides aren't open. Once we have basted those pockets into place, it's now time to connect the back of our pants to the front of our pants. So you're going to grab your back pants pieces and you are going to place them right sides together with your front pant pieces. Then you're going to pin along the straight sides. As you can see, the crotches on these pieces are going to be uneven, and that is how it's supposed to be. We only care about sewing the straight sides right now, connecting a front piece to a back piece. We are going to sew that seam using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and this is going to create the side seam of our pants. After you sew your side seams, you're also going to want to finish that seam. I chose to use my serger, but you can use any seam finish you prefer. And this is now what our pants look like. On the left, you have your front pant piece with your pocket, and on the right, you have your back pants piece. You also have your side seam, and your seam is finished. This is what it looks like on the inside. Now it's time to figure out the spacing of our bows and to sew them on. Before we do that though, we actually need to create the channels for all of our bows. So taking those 8 strips of fabric, we are going to fold them in half, right sides together, and we are going to sew along the open edge to enclose it using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to continue this process for all 8 bow pieces. And this is what your bow pieces are going to look like when they're done. Now it's time to flip all of them right side out. I like to use this handy tool called a loop turner. It has a little hook on one end. You stick it into any kind of channel of fabric that you've created. You hook the end with the hook on the loop turner, and then that allows you to pull that channel through what you've sewn, flip it right side out. Super easy, super handy, and very great for making bows. You are then going to continue that process for all the rest of your bow pieces, flipping them right side out. If you don't have access to a loop turner, you can use a safety pin. Now that we have flipped all of our bow channels right side out, we want to give them a nice press with our iron, and then it's time to close the ends of our bow channels. We are going to kind of stuff the raw edges of those bow channels inside and then just kind of lock them into place with a quick little back stitch on both ends. If you didn't want to sew the ends of these bows, you could tie them in a knot, but I really just like how the enclosed edge looks. And now it's time to attach our bows to the sides of our pants. We are going to be attaching these bows onto the side seams. My first bow I'm going to place 8.5 inches from the top of my pants, and all of the consecutive bows I'm going to space 8 inches apart. Now, your spacing could differ based on the length of your pants, so I recommend that you kind of measure the length of your pants, divide it by 5, and that will give you the placement for your 4 bows. As you can see, I am pinning my bow strips horizontally. The reason I am doing this is because I'm going to sew like a vertical back stitch just over the side seam of my pants, and this is going to give me the ends of my bows that I can then tie together. Once you've pinned your bow ties to both sides of your pants, it's time to stitch it together on your sewing machine. I just did a quick little back stitch over the center of my bow ties, just along the side seam of my pants so that everything is kind of hidden. And then you're going to repeat this process for all of your bow placements. And here are the pants with all of the bow ties. Now it's time to tie them. There are different ways that you can tie these bows so that they actually kind of lay nice and flat. I really had to kind of play around with this for a while, but the best way is to kind of cross over your ties before you actually create your loops and create your bow. So continue just tying all of your bows down each side of your pants. After you have tied all of your bows together, we are now going to take the other leg of our pant and we are going to place those pants right side together. So essentially our bows are going to be touching. This is going to align the curve of the front crotch with the curve of the back crotch. So you want your 2 front leg pieces to be facing and you want your 2 back leg pieces to be facing. Then you're going to pin along the curves of that crotch and we are going to sew those together. After you sew the center front and the center back curves, you are also going to finish those seams. Again, I'm using my serger, but you can use any seam finish you desire. And this is now what your pants are going to look like with those center front and center back crotch curves sewn and finished. Then you're going to pull your pants from the side seam so that your front pant is now touching your back pant on each side. You are then going to match up the bottom of those curved seams. This is kind of the under crotch of your pants. I know that's a weird word, but that's literally what it's called when you're sewing pants. So match up those center seams first, and then you're just going to continue pinning down the inseam of your pants, all the way from your right to your left. And then we're going to sew that with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And you know the drill by now. After you sew that seam, go ahead and finish your seam. And now your pants are actually starting to look like pants because you have 2 legs. All of our seams are nice and finished. You could actually put these on and try them on. That is what we want. So now it's time to attach our waistband. You have your waistband piece. It's going to be pretty wide. So first what we're going to want to do is sew the sides of our waistband. Then we are going to take that over to our iron and we are going to press those seams open. Those side seams on our waistband piece are essentially going to become the side seams of our waistband and align with the side seams of our pants. You're also then going to fold your waistband in half long ways so that it has a fold along the top, and that's how we are then going to sew it onto our pants. So after your waistband has been folded in half so that all of your seams are on the inside, you're going to match up those side seams of your waistband with the side seams of your pants. The raw edge of your waistband should be matched up with the top raw edge waist of your pants. So again, first match up those side seams, and then you can continue pinning your waistband all the way around the waistband of your pants. You're going to continue pinning your waistband all the way along the back. You are going to want to make sure though that you leave about a 2 to 3 inch gap at the top of your waistband when you're sewing it. This is going to be the opening that we insert our elastic. After your waistband has been pinned to the top of your pants, you are going to take it over to your sewing machine and connect it and sew it together all the way around using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Again, make sure that you don't sew the opening for your elastic closed. You can then flip your waistband up, and now you see it's actually starting to look like a waistband. You have the opening in the back of your waistband for your elastic. Now, for these pants, I used an elastic that was 1.5 inches wide. However, I actually only had a really wide elastic, so I had to cut it down to be 1.5 inches wide. You can buy elastic that is already this width at the store. And if you wanted your waistband to be thinner or wider, you could just adjust that when you sew it together and then choose your elastic accordingly. I also always figure out how long to cut my elastic by simply wrapping it around my waist, slightly stretched, and then cut it to a good fitted kind of feel. And when you're ready to feed your elastic through your waistband, you are going to pin a safety pin into one end of your elastic. This is going to help you feed it through your waistband, and you're just going to continue pushing that safety pin through and pulling your fabric over, kind of bunching it all around. Make sure not to pull your elastic all the way into the channel. So I usually like to put kind of a pin at the end so that my elastic stays into place. And then when you get to the end, you can take out your safety pin, and we are going to overlap those 2 edges of our elastic and then pin it into place, and then we're just going to sew a box over this edge to lock it into place and hold it together so that our elastic is like one continuous piece all the way through our waistband. After your elastic ends have been sewn together, you can give your waistband a little tug so that the elastic actually pulls into the whole waistband, and then you are going to want to close and sew the opening for your elastic. Same thing, matching up the raw edge of the waistband with the top raw edge of your pants. And you can just put a pin in that and connect the seams that are already there to close the opening for your elastic. After you close the seam for your elastic, you are going to want to finish those raw edges around your waistband. So I took my pants over to my serger and just serged those raw edges. And this is what the waistband is going to look like inside of your pants now, starting to come together. And now our elastic waistband is all nice and pretty. Now, you could keep this exactly how it is. However, I'm going to run a seam through the center of my waistband and my elastic. I'm going to do this by stretching my elastic and my waistband as I'm sewing it. I also lengthened my stitches to 4.0 so that they weren't quite as close together and tight. And essentially what this allows the waistband to do is bunch back together, but adding the seam, make sure that my elastic doesn't get all twisted in the waistband, because that is so frustrating. But also it kind of adds this really fun little kind of bunchy sheared pop to the waist, and I really love that.
All right, just finished the pants and they are literally just as magical and amazing as I thought they were gonna be. So I'm gonna go shoot the reveal so you all can enjoy it for yourself and hopefully be inspired to maybe make your own pair.
I am so obsessed with how these pants turned out. It's always fun when a vision I have for a project comes to life and I can kind of bring to life and fruition all of these inspirations from online and Pinterest, etc. So I hope you were inspired by this sewing tutorial and by these pants. I mean, who doesn't love bows on pants and a fun Valentine's Day look? And hopefully you give these a try for yourself and make it. If you do, make sure to share with me. And as always, it means so much that you watch my videos and support my channel, and I can't wait to continue sharing more with you throughout the rest of this year. Happy Valentine's Day and happy sewing! See you in the next video!